What's going on, everybody, and happy Thursday. It is week 6 of the NFL season. I can't believe I am saying that. It feels like just yesterday I was watching Isaiah Likely's toe just touch the end line in the season opener, but we're about to get you some more cash here for week 6. It is the NFL Betting Show on FTN. I'm the host here. No Nini today, but you do have the spitting statistician Dane Martinez and our guy PropGod and our guy Sam Choudhury. We're going to go around the horn. We're going to give you a couple of bets. We're going to look at the lines. We'll give you a dog or survivor, and we do have some news for you out there as well, how we will continue to be bringing you some cash as we get into the NBA season. But what's going on, everybody? How do we feel? What are your biggest takeaways just in general? You know, as we get to this part of the season, the bye weeks are starting, where the dust is starting to settle. I'm really intrigued to see if teams like Minnesota turn into a pumpkin or if this is sustainable. I mean, Sam, as we are a month and a half into the season, what's some of the bigger takeaways or trends you're starting to see?
I mean, the takeaway for me has to be just the injuries, specifically to the stud wide receivers. I mean, it was already a crazy season a month in, and then now we just got out of nowhere. We got Michael Pittman. He might be an IR candidate, which that sort of came out of nowhere. I mean, I didn't see him get banged up. Nico Collins, he goes from day to day to week, and then he lands on the IR. So it's really just adapting to these teams. I mean, a team that I'm really excited about is Philly. You know, we only saw that offense week 1 with A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, Saquon Barkley.
Nope. I don't know if we have Sam. He's going to come on back, though. Don't worry about that. But Prop, I mean, let's go over to you real quick. Sorry, Sam, you cut out there, but you were talking about maybe the Eagles kind of coming on back. And I do think that there is still a ceiling for Jalen Hurts and the Eagles with these guys coming back. Prop, what's up with you, man? What are some of the things you're taking away so far, month and a half into the season?
I do think that the injuries stand out. Not even just receivers, even if you go to quarterback. You got Tua out.
Yeah.
Who's going to finish the season as a starter in Pittsburgh is interesting. I think there's a lot of dynamics that's going into this year. We've seen Saleh just lose his job in New York. So are they going to get Devontae Adams or not? If you make a move like that, I would assume you're going all in. So the season has been great from a betting aspect, and then the narratives are just at an all-time high this season. So I think it's been entertaining. The primetime games falling off a bit, just like how it's been the last 2 years. But other than that, like the drama is at all-time high.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I'm here in the New York area, okay? So whether it's Robert Saleh, whether it's Nathaniel Hackett, or whether it's Devontae Adams, it is definitely something to discuss. It's amazing how the Jets and the Saints are where he wanted to go to play with his boys, right? And then, boom, Carr goes down and is out for multiple weeks. Boom, we've got an interim coach in New York. That might change the narrative a little bit for if Devontae goes anywhere. But let's get into it. I want to start with you, Prop, and I want to start. We have another London game this week. We got the Jaguars and the Bears, right? It's almost like the Jaguars' new second home, right? You're gonna play multiple games there, over there. And I know you are on something, but on the Chicago side, who finally has all their wide receivers back, including their rookie out of Washington.
Yes, indeed. Jerome Odunze. What was it? Over 37.5 receiving yards. The best line is on DK, minus 115. I think it's a great spot for him and Caleb to continue building. The reason I love it the most is this Jacksonville secondary, they've been, tagged with injuries, and it's shown. They're giving up the second most receiving yards to wide receivers this season at 210 yards per game. I used the FTN fantasy points against defense versus position tool. It's great because you can look at the fantasy points they give it to receivers, but you can also see the yards they're giving up to every position too. So second most receiving yards allowed 2 receivers per game. And then if you go look at our DVOA adjusted fantasy points against, they are second worst in the NFL against wide receiver twos at a 52%. So they're getting 52% more production at the wide receiver 2 position when wide receiver twos are getting 52% more production than league average against the Jaguars. And Odunze is wide receiver 2 in Chicago. Even with Keenan Allen coming back, he's still been second in targets behind DJ Moore the last 2 weeks. So I like that trend to continue and to him to get a little bit more acclimated into the offense. He went over this number last week after a quiet week the week before. I think this matchup in London? In London?
I think
I
so.
always
I
get it
think the
wrong.
Germany one is later on, and they get the glorious matchup of like Panthers Giants or something like that. But yeah,
Yeah, so excited for that one.
right.
But yeah, I think it's a great spot for Roman Caleb to put on the show.
All right, fair enough. Listen, so prop is on, like you say there, Roma Dunze going over 37.5 yards. You can get that best number over at DK. I got to tell you guys, you got to go on over to the prop shop, okay, to get the best of the number. Or in the case of the first one I'm going to give out in that same game, you can almost find yourself a middle. I love everything prop is saying, and I'm on it as well, just in a different way. Give me Caleb Williams over 232.5 passing yards. You can get that at minus 110 at bet 365. Over on the prop shop, though, there are other books hanging it as high as 238, 6 yards higher. I always like when I'm going over something and then I see that other books have a higher number. It makes me think that they are on it. I think Caleb Williams and this Bears offense may have figured some things out over the last couple of weeks. It was ugly early in the season. I think Caleb threw for like 93 yards in week 1, but he is 300 or more in 2 of his last 3. I mentioned before the wide receivers are all healthy again. Keenan Allen, Roma Dunze, and they're using DeAndre Swift in the passing game a little bit more. And I think that's important. I think that's part of the best skill set of DeAndre Swift, and they're actually leveraging that. And then prop talked a ton already about what Jacksonville gives up via the pass, right? I go on over to Stats Hub and I see that they're giving up 303 yards a game. That's second worst in the NFL. I saw Joe Flacco throw for 359 against them last week. They've given up a 300-yard passer 3 times already this season. They've given up 9 passes of 20 or more yards. So, Jacksonville continues to give it up. And here's the other thing. Jacksonville also doesn't get pressure on the quarterback. Their sack rate is the 7th lowest in the NFL. Their blitz rate is the absolute lowest in the NFL. So now, with that rookie quarterback, I think the recipe is to throw him off, to get pressure on him, to force him to try to do too much. But that's not going to happen with Jacksonville. You put it all together, and I think Caleb Williams goes over this number of 232.5 yards. So, Sam, let me go back to you. I'm going to get your first pick. But what do you think about Prop and I both kind of being on this Bears passing attack against the Jaguars over the pond?
Yeah, I mean, this is by far and away the worst secondary in the league. You look at it, they're dead last in DVOA against the pass. This is Jacksonville. They're at 45.9% in DVOA against the pass. The higher the number, the worse your defense is. Then below them, we have the Rams, which we have been picking on all season long, but they're still down at 32.7%. So over a 10 percentage point separation. And he mentioned the DVOA fantasy points adjusted to wide receiver. Obviously, Jacksonville dead last. And the same goes for quarterback. They allow plus 49% uptick in production against quarterbacks. In comparison, Tampa Bay is second worst, and they're only at 34%. So Jacksonville secondary is just tiers and tiers ahead of everyone else. It's just the worst secondary in the league. So being on the wide receivers, being on Caleb Williams, DeAndre Swift through the pass game, I think you can definitely look at DeAndre Swift receiving yards. I want to say 17.5 is the best number you can get. So I think they're all going to eat. And we have seen Caleb Williams, he has sort of started to come onto his own. A lot of it has been easier matchups, but I mean, that's the case again this week. So he has a pretty big stretch of these soft secondaries, which is good for his progression, his development. But yeah, it's another matchup that he should just smash in.
All right, fair enough. Another intriguing game, in my opinion, here in week 6, one with one of the highest totals on the board, the Dallas Cowboys and the Detroit Lions. So we'll go over to you, Sam, because it's interesting. We got a game with a high total, and you find a prop on a kicker. Tell me what you like in Dallas and Detroit.
Yeah, this might be the only kicker prop that I'll give out all season long, but I'm surprised that they're still hanging this number at minus 145. It is a lot of juice, but for Brandon Aubrey, I mean, this is a guy that led the NFL in field goals made as a rookie last season. And then he has 2+ field goals in every game so far. So it's 100% hit rate this season. He's leading all kickers in both field goals attempted, 16 so far, and field goals made. And I mean, he's on a record pace. I mean, he's about to, I think he's on pace for almost 50. I want to say the exact number is around 48-ish field goals on the season, which would definitely set an NFL record. And I mean, it's with the Washington Ravens game dropping, this is on its own the highest game total on the week, sitting at 52.5. So it's just betting on the game environment. Overall, he's averaging 2.8 field goals made on the season. And we have seen sort of Dallas's offense. It has come to life again the past couple of weeks, but they have still struggled in the red zone. I mean, which is to be expected when you have a lead back like Rico Dowdle. I mean, he went off on Monday night, but still, it's not your prototypical red zone back there. So they have struggled in the red zone, converting it into touchdowns. So I like Brandon Aubrey here. And he has the lag, he has the accuracy. He's one of only 3 kickers to attempt more than 3 40-plus yard field goals. He's a perfect 5 of 5 on those. And then on field goals 50-plus yards out, he's only trailing Kaimi Fairbairn in that category. I think he's at 7. So, I mean, whether it's in close, from distance, I mean, he's been pinpoint accurate. He gets the volume. Again, betting on the game total. Not often I'm going to give a kicker prop. Probably going to be the only one of the season. But, yeah, I just want to bet into this game environment.
Yeah, absolutely. With that total as high as it is, we see teams against Dallas, against Detroit kind of have some production. So that makes sense. Prop, I got to show you first some comments from the chat. We got here, Prop picking the Bears. I'm about to play the lottery, which I think is funny. And then the same viewer is also saying from this game, check it out here, Prop. Jahmyr Gibbs will feed families this week. And I bring that up because I know you are on something in this game, and you also think that Gibbs may put, help your balance moving forward. What do you got here?
Yes, sir. That's my guy deal. I just tried to trade for him. We're in the same fantasy league. I tried to trade for Gibbs. He has Gibbs. He wouldn't come up off of him. But Jahmyr Gibbs over 57.5 rush yards against the Cowboys. I think it's a great matchup for him. We've seen Dan Campbell this week talk about how close he thinks Gibbs is to the breakout, and I feel like he's already breaking now. If you look at the rushing numbers, he's over this number in 3 straight games. He's put together at least 75 rush yards in 3 straight, 84, 83, and 78. That was against the Bucs defense, the Cardinals, and then the Seahawks. I think it's an easier task against this Dallas team, allowing the 8th most rush yards per game at 135. That's adding in the quarterback yards. If you go to just running backs in the middle of the pack, I think about 13th. So still able to get ran on. And this Detroit offensive line is the best unit in the league. So I think Gibbs in store for another great game. And he's averaging 13.5 rush attempts per game. The Cowboys are allowing 4.4 yards per carry. So I think it's a great spot for him, especially that hamstring should be fully healed now because they're coming off the bye week too. So I think it's all steam ahead for Gibbs.
All right, absolutely. We got Xavier 82 in here talking about more kicker stuff in this game. How about both teams to make a 33-yarder in Dallas versus Detroit? Should be interesting. We've got Wavy Visions talking about how the Cowboys will handle Detroit at home at the crib. So we'll see what happens there. I'm going to go to another game that I think is very, very interesting this week because it's sort of a measuring stick game for me. We've seen Washington. We've seen Jaden Daniels completing 80% of his passes. There were 2 games straight where they didn't turn the ball over or punt, but I don't know how sustainable that is. And they play the Baltimore Ravens this week, which is purely a measuring stick, litmus test. Use whatever phrase you want. And if they can go beat the Ravens, then I think they will in fact be for real. But I don't know if that's going to happen in this game. Where am I going? I'm trying to keep it simple. Give me Derrick Henry over 81.5 rushing yards. You can get it at -114 on FanDuel. I was on the Derrick Henry rushing prop last week as well. I needed a 45-yard run in overtime after 2 possessions in overtime to get it done. So I don't know, but I got it. I got paid one way or the other, right? So I am going back to it. Derrick Henry leads the NFL, 572 rushes. He's gone over this number in his last 4 games. And after week 1, when there was so much Justice Hill, people were wondering, would Baltimore continue to, eschew the run game when they needed to, kind of like in the second half of the AFC Championship game last year, but that has not been the case ever since. Derrick Henry has had 15 or more carries in his last 4 games. I think he's had 20 or more carries in 2 of those, and they're facing this Washington Commanders defense. Their run defense is blunt guts trash, my friends. They are giving up 5.1 yards a carry. That's second worst in the NFL. They have given up the most explosive 10-yard runs in the NFL with with 24. 18 to 19% of the runs against this Washington defense have gone for 10 or more yards. I think King Henry obviously has the ability to break one in this. And if he does, he will get over 81 and a half yards as long as they continue to feed Henry. And I think they figured it out, and they will. I think Henry remains the league's leading rusher, and I think he can get to 82 yards against this run defense in Washington, minus 114 on FanDuel. But in this game, I'm going to go back to you, Sam, because you are also on something in this game, Washington, Baltimore. We talk about Jaden Daniels. We talk about his completion rate, but his security blanket is the veteran tight end, Zach Ertz, and you'll think he'll continue to be involved.
Yeah, you mentioned it. It has been a security blanket. Zach Ertz, I mean, he fell below 3 catches for the first time last week, but it was actually his best usage of the season. We saw the starters get pulled out midway through the fourth quarter. So he had a season low 57% snap share. But even then, he saw 8 targets on the day. That was a new season high. And with Jaden Daniels still in the game, he saw a 32% target share, which was tied for Terry McLaurin for first on the team. So overall in the season, he's just below Terry McLaurin in everything across the board as far as receiving goes, in target share, route participation rate. These are the only 2 guys that are on the field every single down. So Jaden Daniels attempted just 25 passes on the game or on the day, and that's not going to be the case against Baltimore. Right now is 6.5 underdogs, which again, to your Derrick Henry point, I mean, he's been one of the most game script dependent backs in the league pretty much his whole career. So I do expect Baltimore to control the game for most of the day, and that just means more pass volume for the entire Commanders offense. But we've seen the Ravens secondary get decimated, and we just saw what Cincy did last week with Joe Burrow with that monster game. But to tight ends specifically, the secondary is allowing the second most receiving yards to the position, third most targets, and third most receptions. So pretty much Terry and Ertz are the only guys that are the full-time players on this team. And I think just with the better game script, we're going to see more passing volume. Again, I said he missed this line for the first time last week, and he had 8 targets on the day. I mean, if you give Ertz anywhere close to 8 targets, I think he's going to get this with relative ease. So on top of that, like I said, again, one of the best matchups for tight ends on the slate. So I think he smashes this. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if he has 4 by halftime. So.
All right, listen, I'm with you here, Sam. I mean, it's possible for him to get 2 or 3 in one drive, if you want to know the truth, right? If they keep on going in the way they have been in this game. We also got Trevor. Big shout out to him here with the show, saying Henry crushes his longest rush prop weekly as well. And I mentioned the propensity for the Commanders defense to give up some of those big time runs. So I kind of like that as well. Moving on to another game. Let's go back to prop. I'm talking here about the Green Bay Packers. You know, interesting movements in their pass offense recently, prop. I mean, we've had the emergence of Kraft, right? We know Watson has been injured. Dubs was unsatisfied with his role, even though I think he was the leading target getter and had the leading snap share among Packers wide receivers. And people are starting to figure out who is that dude for the Green Bay Packers. I know you have an idea of who that could be, and you're on something in this game.
Yes, sir. I think he's been the guy since the second half of last season. I think everyone else had people fooled, but Reed is the most electrifying guy on that Green Bay offense. I think it's shown himself. I used StatSub and I just filtered it down to the 3 games with Jordan Love this season. Reed is actually second in targets behind Dontavion Wicks, but Wicks is just not a reliable receiver. He already has 3 drops this season, 27.3% drop rate. Reed, 20 targets, 15 receptions, 355 yards with Jordan Love. He's averaging 118 yards per game. They're giving us a line that's 59.5. It's a smash spot, especially against this Arizona secondary, giving up the 11th most receiving yards to the receiving groups this season. And then the receiving DVOA for wide receiver ones giving up 18% more production. So I think it's another great spot for Love and Reed to continue their connection. And Jordan, I'm sorry, I almost called him Jordan. Jaden Reed's season is definitely here.
Absolutely. Listen, we got other people agreeing with you in the chat. When the Day TV says Jaden Reed is basically a slim version of Debo Samuel. They do kind of use him in similar ways. Some of the pop passes, some of the end arounds, right? Playing that role. Yep. Absolutely. We got Trevor in the chat as well saying, listen, Jaden Reed also crushes his longest reception prop weekly, and that Reed is him. Shout out to Quantez as well, saying he loves the show. Great information. You can catch us here on Thursdays every single week of the NFL season. I think a couple of weeks ago, we went 12 out of 13 on our plays. Don't mean to pat ourselves on the back like Barry Horowitz back in the WWE in the 80s and 90s, but I'm going to do so anyway. So let's keep it moving. I'm going to try and keep it rolling here. I told you guys before, I am in the New York area. There has been a lot of drama around what's been going on. Personally, I think Aaron Rodgers hasn't been playing well, and they cannot run the ball, but I think that will become the new focus for them on Monday night against the Buffalo Bills. There's been a change in the play calling, and with that change, I also think come a re-emphasis on the run. I am kind of being contrarian here. I'm taking Breece Hall's over on his rushing prop at 53.5 yards. Let me tell you something. I understand that he's had 19 carries for 27 yards in the last 2 games. I understand that there is drama in New York right now, but I actually think we're going to see the best version of the New York Jets this week. And I think going up against Buffalo's run defense is a kind of elixir to fix it all. I mean, I told you about the Washington run defense previously with Derrick Henry giving up 5.1 yards a carry and that was second worst in the NFL. You know what's worse? The Buffalo Bills at 5.2 yards per carry. They also allow a worst, and this is a great stat over at Stats Hub, which you got to check out if you haven't done it already. The Buffalo Bills are allowing 3.2 yards a carry before contact. Okay, and so if you let Breece Hall get rolling like that, I think he will continue to do so. They've also given up 22 runs of 10 yards or more. So I think this is a get right spot for Breece Hall. I think there will be an emphasis on this as the Jets really look to kind of punch Buffalo in the mouth. I also think they're going to win this game because they have been able to shut Josh Allen down historically, okay? The Jets defense make good quarterbacks look regular, including Josh Allen. I know there is Braylon Allen there as well, but there is just so much about Breece Hall, and if he's kind of been a bust, at least for fantasy this year, I think he's going to show up, show out, and go over this prop on Monday night. So we'll see about that. I do want to go back over to Sam now. Sam, I love this. You do like the halftime, full-time bets a lot, and you have one here where I don't know if you're riding with the team or if you're picking on a rookie quarterback making his debut, but it looks like you're on the Texans.
Yeah, this one is a simple math equation to me. Normally, when you see a 6.5 to 7 point favorites, you look at the halftime, full time, they're almost always minus 140, minus 150. So I really have no idea why this is minus 125. I mean, maybe because the Pats are home, but still, I mean, I actually hadn't looked. You would imagine that the half point or the halftime spread be Houston minus 3.5 to minus 4. So I really don't get why this is a minus 125 and not a minus 140, minus 150 that we normally see with the 7 point favorite. So it's not really betting against the rookie because in my write-up initially when I first gave it out, I said I don't care who starts under center, Jacoby Brissett or Drake May. And I mean, Vegas doesn't seem to either because when the quarterback change happened, the line didn't move. It stayed at that 7 point line that we have right now. But overall, you look at Houston, I mean, they've been almost perfect this season. They had that huge win against Buffalo, and their only loss came against Sam Darnold, the Vikings. And maybe we kind of thought maybe it was a disappointing game for Houston, just with what we thought of Minnesota and Sam Darnold coming into the season. But I mean, by our numbers, Minnesota is the best team in the NFL, ranked number 1 overall in DVOA, ranked number 1 overall in defense. So, I mean, they've just been slaughtering teams no matter who they face. So, I do think this Texans team is legit. Even without Nico Collins, I think they should control the game from start to finish. And I mean, New England on the other side, there's really nothing you can be optimistic about. Ever since that big upset win against Cincy, they've lost 3 consecutive games. Tyler Huntley most recently, and they've been outscored by their opponents by minus 40 point differential, and that's second worst in the league overall. like I said, they're terrible on both sides of the ball. Bottom 5 in DVOA on offense, 28th, and 28th exactly on defense as well. So it's a team that can't score, can't stop anyone. And I do think Drake May under center is going to help the offense get better, only because it can't get worse. I mean, as far as PFF grade goes, they have a 59.3 offensive grade, which is just one spot ahead of Cleveland. And I mean, Deshaun Watson is probably the worst starting quarterback in the league right now. So anything over Jacoby Brissett is an improvement, but still, halftime, full time, I think Houston just controls the game from the start, even on the road. So yeah, I feel like it's kind of a no-brainer.
Fair enough. We got MLB Dream, our friend and colleague out here, saying the first half spread in that game is 3.5. But that it looks like it's going to go to 4 soon in a couple of spots based on where the juice is. Adam's Digest on this game. Demario Douglas will get a ton of targets. And listen, in fantasy, garbage time is worth it. Demario Douglas has, I think, 9 targets in 2 of the last 3 games, last week against Miami and also in that Thursday night game when they were down big against the Jets. So keep an eye out on that. We got Trevor in there saying that Drake May is going to be running for his life all game. I think that's true. And that's the one concern I have for Drake May. I have seen young quarterbacks be under so much pressure that it messes with them in the long term. It happened with Sam Darnold seeing ghosts. It happened with David Carr a long time ago with the Houston Texans there as well. One thing I will say, you also mentioned, Sam, no Nico Collins. From a fantasy standpoint, keep an eye on if Dalton Schultz gets more involved from the tight end position in this one as well. We all know in the fantasy aspects, tight end has been an absolute wasteland at tight end. And Schultz now maybe with a larger chunk of the pie now that Nico Collins is not there could be an interesting play. All right, guys. So here's what we always do. We've given out some props here. What I'd also love to hear from you is, whether it's a dog or whether it's a survivor play, I want to hear what you got. For me, I'm considering just going to Philly. Do I think they're going to cover more than a touchdown? Maybe not necessarily against Cleveland, where Sam said that Deshaun Watson is like the worst quarterback in all of football right now. But I do think they're going to win the game. Jalen Hurts is going to have his weapons back. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith after the bye. I think it'll be a lot better. So for me, at least, guys, I'm looking at Philadelphia. I want to go to you, Prop. I'm going to put the all the lines up. If you got a survivor play or if you got a dog that you think can be interesting and potentially be outright, here are some of the here are the lines as we've seen it recently. You got a dog or you got a kind of smooth, easy survivor play for this week?
If I was going with a survivor play, I would agree with Sam and go with the Texans straight up. I think it's a tough task for Drake May coming in against this Houston team, even without Nico Collins. I think they have enough to get it done. I don't know if Mixon's going to be back this week or not, but I don't think it'll matter because the Patriots probably won't score more than 10 points.
All right, fair enough. Win the Day is saying the same thing. Taking Dell to the moon. Gonzo getting the Diggs game here as well. So a lot of people are in on that game. Sam, what about you? Any survivor, any dogs you like this week?
Yeah, I mean, as far as survivor goes, I think obviously I broke it down. I think Houston is going to dominate in New England. And I like yours. I actually have both of those in a teaser. As far as dog goes, there aren't really anything that stand out. I mean, you have a couple of the 2.5 dogs, which, I mean, if you do call that a dog, I think you made a great point about the Jets. I mean, I wish if we were talking about this, I would have had it pulled up, but I know there's some insane record about dogs as soon as their coach gets fired. So dog, I see right here, Win Daily said dog of the week is Colts. I mean, those are the dogs that you really want to back because Colts opened up as favorites actually coming into the week. We just saw it flip. I think our betting model actually gave out Titans either to cover or Titans money line. That was plus money at the time. So that's definitely worth a look as well. But I think all these 2.5 dogs, I mean, they're 2.5 for a reason. They're all worth looking, but nothing really stands out to me as far as dogs goes. I would say dogs, like anything more than a field goal, but yeah, I mean, but I really like both of your guys' survivor picks, so.
Cool. We'll see it. I mean, at this point, who knows how many people are still even left in Survivor, right? As it's been such a rough go. I was in a Survivor pool that had like 200 or so people left. I am one of 12 people left after a bunch of people got banged out this week with the Seattle Seahawks and the San Francisco 49ers losing. Our guy MLB Dream is also saying that the Titans were a massive edge for this week at the FTN model, and that the Titans edge is now gone though at 2.5. So that about does it for us. I do want to plug one more thing here. Sam and Prop know the NHL season has gotten going already this week. The NBA season is going to get going later on this month, and you love Prop, you love Sam, you love the Spittin' Statistician. We are going to be doing an NBA betting show here on the YouTube channel for FTN starting in that season. We'll probably do it once a week. Maybe after football, we'll do it a little bit more frequently. You know, these guys are so sharp. They are so hot that they sweat steam on a daily basis with their picks. So we got that NBA betting show coming soon. What are you guys working on right now? Sam, you were talking about an article that you wrote up. What are you doing these days? And then Prop, I want to ask you the same, because I know you're hosting spaces, hammering live bets left and right. Sam, how can people see some of the rest of your work?
Yeah, later today, I was actually working on it before, so I'll wrap it up after. I go through the splits tool and look at certain situations around the league that'll help with props, target shares. I mean, for today specifically, I'll be looking at the Raiders, how the target share distribution has changed with and without Devontae Adams, and now that Aiden O'Connell's starting. I'll look at some of the guys. Jacoby Myers specifically, he had some drastic splits with Aiden O'Connell, Jimmy Garoppolo, so I'll compare that with Gardner Minshew. And then after that, I'll have my DFS content coming out. I'll have my core plays out. I'll have more write-ups in the FTN Bet Tracker. I mean, those are all my props are pretty much articles on its own. So a lot of content on there as well. So yeah, that's about it.
Sounds good. Thanks a lot, Sam. Prop, what about you, man? I see you on Spaces. I see you crushing live bets left and right. How can people get down with you?
So tonight I'm putting out the my wide receiver route tree. I use the FTN wide receiver cornerback matchup tool. I usually pick between 3 to 5 guys who have great matchups, and I read the article there. So that'll be coming out today. I have an MLB playoff article coming out tonight, and then I'll be hosting the live betting show for the Thursday night football game tonight as well.
All right, sounds good. Week 6 gets going tonight on Thursday Night Football. You can watch it along with Prop, get some extra cash, Niners and Seahawks. And then for me, you can catch me on Sirius XM with our guy Chris Meany, 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern, all the time, every day, trying to give you what you need to win your leagues and win that cash. That'll do it for us here going into week 6. Smash those bets right now. Hammer them before the lines move. And then come on back and thank us next week. We'll be doing it again right here. Same bad time, same bad channel. Until then, may the winners be yours. We're out of here. Peace.